This video is on Zebo versus champion Jocko. I get a lot of, I've had more than a couple of requests for this, and it always seems like Zebo keeps getting brought up. Zebo and this dog, Zebo and that dog, Zebo's record, Zebo, was he a good producer? Was he not? Was he one of the best in history? Was he not? Is he a finisher? A lot of stuff written about him. He's a lot of people's favorite all-time dog. Now mine is Art, and I've mentioned this before. Someone who saw both of them, because Art and Zebo are what are considered aces, and so this dog man friend of mine who saw both of them, I asked him, who do you think would win? And if they ever met up, you know, and he said Zebo, because, and asked him why, and he said because he started faster. Art was more patient, would pace himself slower, so that was his reason for choosing why Zebo would win. They're both hard-mouthed dogs, finishers, you know, great athletes, top dogs, both grand champions and all that. They hit all the marks, champion, grand champion, ROM dogs. But that doesn't take away from me liking Art. It's just a personal preference. So again, nothing meant for any illegal purposes. Don't interpret what I say as schooling anybody on how to do anything wrong or illegal. This is all history that I talk about, and I include opinion and some experience. I've had experience with the dogs or the blood. So again, this is on Zebo versus Jocko. I'm going to go, sometimes I get repetitive, but I'm going to go over their peds. And the thing with the American Pit Bull Terrier is there's a lot of commonalities in the past with these dogs. That's why it may sound repetitive sometimes. And sometimes it's just repetitive because I'm making a point, again, the same point. So with Zebo, we have him sired by Lonzo's Andy and Lonzo's Angie. Andy was sired by McCraw's Snowball and Johnson's Black Lil. Angie is by Beal's Powhatan out of Greg's Lady. Here where we get to the root of the breeding. McCraw's Snowball is sired by Tudor's Dibo out of Manessa's Sissy. Johnson's Black Lil is by McCraw's Snowball out of Beal's Red Lady. Beal's Powhatan is out of McCraw's Snowball out of Beal's Red Lady. And Greg's Lady is out of Lonzo's Andy and Lonzo's Faye. So we have, this is a heavily line-bred McCraw's Snowball dog, which would make him a heavily line-bred Tudor's Dibo dog. And we also have two times where you see Lonzo's Andy in there, being the sire of Zebo and the great-grandsire of Zebo. And then you have Johnson's Black Lil and Beal's Powhatan are littermates out of Snowball and Red Lady. So he's a tight-bred dog, Dibo dog if you want to call him that. And of course he was devastating, 7-time winner. His most famous win is when he had to come up in weight, 3 pounds. He went into a very good dog, champion Greaser. Greaser was reportedly a slick head dog, and that showed in the match. The match was actually taped on either 35 millimeter, 8 millimeter, something like that. I believe it was 35 millimeter, like a movie. I'm not sure, don't quote me, but it was taped on film. And there's several old dog man, Matt McGee, one of them, who actually saw the video. Richard Stratton saw it as well. The show went almost 2 hours, and with both giving and taking punishment. Zebo taking punishment on the head, and of course him getting to the front shoulders and chest of Greaser, and he finally wore him down. They picked Greaser up. Greaser didn't quit. The story is that Zebo was reportedly going to be in this big convention in Mexico. They got canceled. So they picked up this match against Greaser, and he only had like 3 weeks work, and he was coming up in weight in 3 pounds. Coming up in weight 3 pounds, so quite an accomplishment for a dog. But Zebo was that type of dog, ace type, top dog, right? His siblings, one of them very famous as well, Lonzo's Vindicator, was a 2-time winner. He won over Finley's Bow, and it was either Jimmy Lee or what was the guy's name? James Hand. I forget which one. But it was a Florida Dogman, famous Florida Dogman, dog named Jasper. I think the Finley's Bow match went 1 hour 40, and the Jasper match went 1 hour 30 something, I think. Both were well over the hour. Both times, Vindicator was underweight, a pound and a half underweight. But he was a super dog, tore up their legs, just put it to him fast. Something people don't know is later on, Vindicator actually lost to Cutchin's Ace in 1 hour and 10 minutes. Most people don't know that. But those 2 wins solidify him as a top dog. And they bred him as well. Another good female was Brewer's Rosie. That was a litter mate. I don't know a lot about her. I don't want to be quoted on this, but one of these dogs bred like this actually beat Don Mayfield. It was the last 2 matches that Mayfield had before he retired. One of them was a dog named Snow, who was a Best in Show winner, and Crenshaw's champion Charlie beat Snow. And then it was another female, and one of these dogs, I don't know if it was Rosie or a daughter of Rosie or a daughter of Zebo or a daughter of Vindicator or Littermate, whatever it was, type of dog, is the one that beat Mayfield's female. I forget which female it was. But that's just a little history about the littermates. There's also a dog named Kush and a dog named Lena. They were littermates to Vindicator and Rosie and Zebo. Kush, you'll see him in Pedigrees a little bit, but I don't recall seeing Lena. I'm sure she's in there somewhere. But those were all siblings. You have Zebo, Vindicator, Rosie, Kush, and Lena in that litter. So when we get to some of the offspring, I'll speak on. There's Clemens N-word Toby. Now you'll see him in a lot of pedigrees. In fact, he's one of the ones where you see the Zebo Eli cross. So Clemens did that as well, or Boudreaux did it, whoever had the dogs at the time. And then they also use that same cross in Mexico. So you'll see them in some of the pedigrees down there. Some of the title dogs off of Zebo include Hughes Champion Gator, Fitch's Champion Diamond Jim, Steps Champion Willie, or Supernat's Champion Willie, Clemens Z-Boy, Steps Champion Ruby, Nelson's Champion Zipper, Chain Gans Champion Abuelita. So there's several dogs off of Zebo that were champions, and there's several dogs that were of high quality as well. So again, you have Clemens Nick Toby, Hughes Champion Gaber, Fitch's Champion Diamond Jib, who was a 4-time winner. So Fitch had Diamond Jim and a little bit. You'll see those in pedigrees. Now Diamond Jim, if you look him up, if you can find any pictures, he's a perfectly built dog. If you look at Zebo conformationally, he's correct. Just a beautiful animal. If you look up Diamond Jim, same thing. He resembles Zebo a little bit, but he's just a nice put-up dog. Reportedly a terrible, terrible man-eater, but a tough, tough dog. He beat good competition. Just a beautifully built dog. He looks like he's supposed to. He looks like what a pit dog's supposed to look like. And again, you have, in fact, Dunleavy's Penny was an inbred daughter of Zebo, and she was Penny was out of Zebo and Combs Honey. She was actually triple bred Zebo, and she did produce a winner. The Hawkeye dog, or the shiny black dog, was a 2-time winner. I saw both his matches. They both went over an hour. He was a white blood, the white dogs, Zebo cross. So he was out of Steve's, what was the dog? It wasn't Goner, it was a half-brother Goner. Bart. Steve's Bart, that's the white blood, bred to Penny, who was a triple bred daughter of Zebo. That's what made Hawkeye. Real good dog. He beat Red Williams, and he beat Sam and Al. Hour and 30. I refereed when he beat Williams. That one went an hour 30. Beat Williams. What was the dog's name? I forgot, but he was a 2-time winner. Pure Heinz's dog. And beat Sam and Al in an hour 20. Steps Miss Willie, or Super Nats. Clemens Z-Boy would be another dog you'll see in pedigrees. Step Champion Ruby, just a badass female. That's the one who beat Mayfield. Nelson's Champion Zipper, again, top-notch bitch, rough. Most of these dogs are hard biters. Zebo threw some hard-mouthed dogs, real athletic type of dogs. As long as you didn't inbreed them too much. That's where I think the problem was. It's been written about. Inbreeding Zebo stuff can create some detriments. Short on air, short coupled. But as long as you loose line breed them or outcross them like that, you get some devastating dogs. Zebo gets a lot of bad rap. It's not warranted. Because a lot of the dogs off of Zebo people never heard about, didn't follow their careers. Nobody talked about them. But there were several people. Billy Stepp had a bunch of them. Diamond Jim saw a bunch of them. Different people had them, really, Zebo dogs, besides people I just mentioned, Dave Adams owns Zebo, so he used that blood. Matt McGee used it, Tar Heel Matt. TJ certainly had it. Rocco certainly used it. And Bobby Love, of course, Dr. Love. A lot of people up in the northeast area, and then it filtered down to the south, used Zebo dogs. Steph's Champion Willie, another great dog out of Zebo. The Daigle said, if you had to go against Willie and you had a 48-pound dog, change his weight to 46. That's how bad Willie was. That's a little story. It's actually a write-up that they put in the old Pit Dog Report or the Sporting Dog Journal or one of them magazines. Lewis's Carver, a dog they actually named Carver. I'm guessing, I think this is Lou Lewis, guy who had Catfish and Grand Champion Hope, Champion Catfish and Champion Hope. Lewis's Carver was a 2-time winner, 1-time loser. Again, Chain Gang's Abuelita, that's in the southwest area. Abuelita's out of Zebo, and Granger's Baby. Granger had a lot of the old Ed Crenshaw blood, that stuff, the Reno and that, so Baby is the Ed Crenshaw blood, bred to Zebo, produced Chain Gang's Champion Abuelita. Lewis Carver's out of Zebo, and Carver's Big Mama. Who else? The 3-time winner that lost to Champion Jeep was reportedly a son of Zebo. If you look at Jeep's career, he beat Champion Shaker, I think it was, for his first. His second, he beat Cooper's Weenie. His third, he beat Step's Black Dog. That Black Dog was supposedly a 3-time winner, son of Zebo. That went 2 hours and 5 minutes. Jeep won that one. Step and Supernat had the Zebo blood, of course. You see that cross with, Supernat ended up with Jeep's brother, Champion Charlie, and he made that Zebo Charlie cross. Step's Miss Willie was out of Tom's Spider. Tom's Spider was a ROM. That's that old Hetrick brother. The old Hetrick brother being Leitner Colby stuff. Frank Rocca's Cherry Bomb, 2-time winners out of that stuff. Everybody I've talked to said that was some good dogs, tough dogs, game dogs. That's old blood, Hetrick. So again, Step, Supernat, Dave Adams, Rocca, Tar Heel Matt, Boudreaux, Clemens, Cardenas, used Bobby Love. Up in the Great Lakes area, they all had Zebo dogs off of Zebo or used that blood. Up in the Great Lakes area, they had that combo of Zebo, Art, and Kingfish. Bobby Love wrote about that. He utilized it, and other people did too. So that's a little bit more on Zebo. I'll get into Chavez Champion Jocko from the Carolina area. Now, in my time and a little before that, and certainly after that, the Carolinas were a hotbed, North and South Carolina. In fact, there's even a little debate which one's better, North or South. You take your pick, because both were great areas, had great dogmen. This is where the Jocko blood originated from. It's also where the Red Boy stuff originated from, so it makes sense that you would cross Red Boy and Jocko blood. So, but it's purely a Carolinas recipe. So Jocko is sired by, he was a 4-time winner, reportedly a devastating Stifle dog. So he was sired by Jackson's Champion Hank. Champion Hank also reportedly a very tough Stifle dog, and also a red time winner. So you have father and son, both 4-time winners, both Stifle dogs. So if you had Jocko's blood back in the day, they would naturally, a lot of them, go to the Stifle because it's in their blood. So Jocko's out of Champion Hank and Rast Champion Queenie. So that means that Bob Rast is the one who actually produced Champion Jocko. And Hank is out of Mayfield's Duke, out of Brian's Gidget. Rast Queenie is out of Cable's Fang. He's a 2-time winner, 1-time loser. He lost kind of controversially to according to William Cable anyway, to Red Boy. And Queenie's out of Cable's Lady Killer. Mayfield's Duke is out of Mayfield's Lightning 2 and Mayfield's Jigger. Brian's Gidget is out of Mayfield's Devil and Mayfield's Goldie. Cable's Fang was out of Long's Big Red, Long's Abby. Cable's Lady Killer is out of Long's Duke and Long's Katie. So what we have here again is dogs that are heavily bred or heavily influenced by Daibo. Now, a lot of these dogs are not well known, they're not heard of, but if you search the pedigrees, you'll see that a lot of this stuff goes back to Daibo. Now, you could say that about different dogs that people may or may not know about, like Burton's Grand Champion Hank, pretty much a Daibo dog. Tombstone, pretty much a Daibo dog. Pit General, pretty much a Daibo dog. Alligator, pretty much a Daibo dog. That's the influence that Daibo had, and it spanned generations. And there's even several dogs, even famous dogs. People don't know that they're heavily influenced by Daibo because they don't recognize the names. So Mayfield's Duke and Mayfield's Gidget, who were the parents of Jackson Hank, they're basically Zebo dogs. And they go back to Zebo through Langham's Cotton, Heinzel's Polly, Mayfield's Nig, and there's Tudor Spike in there. A lot of different dogs. There's also a little bit of cross in Duke, which again it goes heavily back to Zebo through Black Widow, would be Womack's Mert, which was Zeke's sister, and Zeke is the sire of Bolio and Mendocino and Gordas in Mexico. And Mayfield's Lightning was a dog that's been written about. His matches were reported, one-time winner, one-time loser, real game loser, very game dog, good producer. Then on the Ras Queenie side, Jocko's Dam, through Cable's Fang and Cable's Lady Killer, that stuff goes back to the PR stuff, which is staff blood. Goes back to the Hemfield and Williams stuff, which is Old Family Red Nose, and has Zebo blood in it too. So you have kind of a three-way cross on the bottom side of Jocko, of Zebo, PR, and Old Family Red Nose. And again, Old Family Red Nose is one of those bloodlines that's in almost every dog living. And at the time, a lot of different people use it. Hemfield was a very competitive guy and a good breeder, and his stuff went everywhere. Tudor used it, Heinzel used it, Cappy Ross, of course. You have, what's his name? He's an old man, Jake Wilder, right? Used it, but a lot of different people used it. There's even champions that have that blood or half that blood. Nick the Greeks had a little female champion. She's half that stuff. The Geronimo blood is that Old Family Red Nose, Hemfield, and all that. So a lot of people use it. And of course, the Old Family Red Nose, a lot of it includes what was his name? He's a famous dog. Zoner was a World War II hero. Ferguson Centipede. Ferguson did a tour in World War II, came home, they called him back, and when he went back, he got killed fighting for the United States. That was Centipede's owner. So, and different people use Centipede. Joe Corvino, Tudor, condition and handling, different people bred to him and had him. Just a great, great dog, representative of that Old Family Red Nose blood, foundation for that stuff after it was established. So you have two dogs, Jocko and Zebo, who are influenced pretty much on the Zebo side. They all dogs have different crosses in them and different stuff in them to help them along. But the main source of both these dogs is Zebo. As far as Jocko's siblings goes, you have Ras Champion Argo, the 4-time winner, 1-time loser. Argo lost to Thrift's Champion Bumper. Bumper was the son of Grand Champion Art. So you see how kind of all these dogs are kind of intertwined, mixed together, and related, and went into each other, and different people owned them, and the same people owned different dogs, and the same dog was owned by different people. That's the way the history of the breed goes. So Ras Champion Argo was a 4-time winner, 1-time loser. He lost to Thrift Champion Bumper, who was the son of Art. Chavez's Champion Apples was a 4-time winner, 1-time loser. Apples lost to Molly B. Right? If you see that match, it'll probably say Ras Pearl losing to Molly B. That's Apples. That's Jocko and Argo's sister. On that same card, if I'm remembering correctly, where Apples lost to Charlie B., her daughter, Apple's daughter, lost to a daughter of Molly B. On that same card, I think it was. So all these dogs, Jocko is the most popular one, but Jocko, Argo, Apples, you'll see all of them in pedigrees, different pedigrees. In fact, they inbred Jocko to Apples. And you'll even see Argo, I remember 1 or 2 champions that he produced. And you'll see Apples in there. different breeders using that blood. Going into some of the offspring off of Jocko, you have Champion Hubcap, Champion Beretta, Bucky, a 2-time winner, Dangerous Dan was a 2-time winner, Margaret was a 2-time winner, Gypsy was a 1-time winner, Tan Smith's Jocko was a 2-time winner. Green Sandy was a ROM female. That's the one that was off of Jocko and Apples, litter mates breeding, brother-sister breeding. I believe his name's Danny Green. You'll see him in pedigrees. He doesn't get a lot of credit, but he was behind a lot of the breedings, Jocko bred type breedings back in the day. So wherever you see Greens this or Greens that, he was instrumental in promoting that blood and moving it forward and breeding a lot of good dogs from that stuff. From the Jocko and Apple stuff, you see STP's Grand Champion John Boy, STP's Champion Toro. John Boy was just devastating. These are the Red Boy Jocko crosses, if you will, that produced these dogs that I was talking about earlier. So STP's Grand Champion John Boy, just a terrible, terrible dog. It's top notch. He's an escape artist. I think they tried to put him in a kennel, double collar him, chain him, this and that, and he'd always get loose. I think that's what led to his demise. He got loose one day. And that was the end of John Boy, but just a great dog. STP's Champion Toro, a 4-time winner, long distance fighter, over an hour up to over 2 hours his matches went. He lost to the famous Red Beast Charlie dog, who was a 6-time winner, Champion Toro. STP's Champion Tyson. Green's Hitman, I remember that dog back in the day. He was a 2-time winner. It's one of the dogs Danny Green bred. Supernat's Boots, I mentioned him a little bit in a video on Supernat. He was a 2-time winner, a 4-hour winner. One of his wins was in 4 hours. Gladys was a POR bitch. So Gladys, another Red Boy Jocko breeding, or Jocko Red Boy breeding, however you want to look at it, would be Yellow, Grand Champion Yellow, Tance Grand Champion Yellow, bred to Tance Gladys, that produced Grand Champion Rodney. Another dog who would be heavy on the, more on the Jocko side rather than the Red Boy side, because what some of them did was they were triple bred Red Boy dogs, bred to daughters of Jocko, that produced great dogs like Grand Champion Yellow, dogs like that. And then they would take that stuff and go back to the Red Boy side. Some of them, like with Rodney and this next dog I'm going to mention, Carolina Kennels Champion Termite, they went more on the Jocko side, meaning after they were bred, well, Termite's more on the Jocko side, and they kind of went more to the Jocko side of the breedings. Some people went more to the Red Boy side. These dogs here went more to the Jocko side, especially Termite. So he's more heavily bred on the Jocko side. He's a 4-time winner. Sired by Chavez Dangerous Dan and Steen's Delilah. Of course, Fletcher Chavez. He's behind a lot of these dogs. He's responsible for making the Jocko name popular. But there are a lot of different players that don't get mentioned, like Danny Green, like Bob Rass, who actually made the breeding. Chavez had his hands on a lot of these dogs and won with a lot of them and produced a lot of them. Well-deserved credit. But there's other players in there too that deserve credit. When you look up these pedigrees, you'll see their names, you know, and you'll see some of them started whole yards based off Jocko dogs or Jocko Red Boy dogs or Red Boy Jocko dogs. So Termite, interesting, he's a black dog. I don't know where that comes from. I guess it's somewhere. There's controversy about him too. I don't know. I don't talk about it because I don't know what it is, whether it's the truth or not. Some people say he's not really bred like that, but that's what his papers say, so that's what I go off of. Right? Somebody knows better than me, then they should do their own video. But he's a heavily influenced Jocko dog, Termite was. And he produced HOE's Gabriel, was a 2-time winner. Dog Boys Wilma, 2-time winner. HOE's champion Selena. SK's Cannibal was a 2-time winner. Carolina Kennels grand champion Cyrus. And champion Trouble. And I saw these, TDK Stupid and Star. I'm guessing TDK was Billy Stevens, who passed away not too long ago. Rest in peace, my good friend. I wasn't aware that he had this blood, but if that's him, I'm sure he got it for a reason. So here we see different people. You know, the dogs become popular in their area first, then they spread out. So with this, again, you have people using the blood, breeding the blood, competing with the dogs back in the day, make it popular in the area, and then it spreads out from there. I've even seen like Mayday dogs and some Jocko stuff down in Mexico. That didn't happen for several years after the blood became popular, but it made its way down there. And then you see some of these bloods, not necessarily Jocko or even Zebo stuff. Sometimes it's Mayday, sometimes Boleo stuff like the Invicto, Big John stuff down in South America I've seen. And you see it spread out like that. So the same thing happened with Zebo blood, went down to Mexico. It happened with the Jocko blood. A little bit of it went down to Mexico too, and it spreads out. Now, to match him up, Zebo already proved he could go up in weight, 3 pounds. Devastating dog, 7-time winner. His last match only went 18 minutes. He was probably 7 years old when that happened. You know, what would have happened if Zebo would have went into Grand Champion Angus? Angus was a 42, 43, so it's close. Or Zebo would have went into Art, you know, close. Or if Zebo would have went into, you know, Art was a 43 to 46, but I think I remember him being matched at 40 or 41 when he was young. But his natural weight, according to Stinson, was he's like a 43, 46 pound dog. But he did match at a lower weight, so who knows how that would have turned out. Zebo even they hooked up Zebo with Boomerang. Boomerang was a 39-pound dog. So maybe when they were young, Zebo could have done it, or you know, or they could have done it at 40. Zebo did match at 40 one time, and then Boomerang would have had to come up. Who knows? But you just pick your favorite, right? And they do the same thing with Zebo and Jocko. You know, now Jocko was, if I remember correctly, again, 45 and a half to 48-pound dog, something like that. So he was bigger than Zebo, too big. But just style comparison, you have the chest and shoulder eating dog in Zebo versus the Stifle expert in Jocko. Who would have won? Who knows? It's been interesting to see. They were different sizes, so generally when they match these dogs up, I like to put them dogs that were the same weight class, or, you know, and even if they're not from the same era, at least be in the same weight class or close to it, right? There's been talk, how come Jocko didn't go into Jeep, or Jeep ducked Jocko or something? They weren't the same weight. Jeep was a 42, 43, Jocko was a 45 and a half to 48. They said the same thing about Chinaman. How come Jeep didn't go into Chinaman? Because they didn't fight in the same era. Chinaman didn't start his career until 3 years after Jeep was retired. Were they close to weight? Yeah. Chinaman 44 to 46 or something like that. Jeep 42, 43. But they weren't in the same era. Now you have Jeep guys like me that would follow Jeep. You have Chinaman guys, like a ton of people follow Chinaman. And I had I never saw Jeep, but I did have the opportunity to see Chinaman in a row. He was devastating. I mentioned it before. I called him the Eviscerator afterwards. When you have top dogs like that, you put them together, sometimes they surprise you. Sometimes it's you know, it ends quick. Sometimes it goes a long time. They cancel each other out. So who would have won is interesting to think about. It's interesting to debate over. It's interesting to talk about. But it's not worth getting mad over or insulting people or anything like that, because you don't know. Nobody knows. Every time somebody says, I'm sure this dog will win, or even in boxing or horse racing, 30-1 winner, you know, 30-1 odds in the horse's favor, and he don't win. What would the odds something like that? 30-1 Tyson against Buster Douglas. Tyson lost. I know Hasim Rockman, he was a big underdog when he went into Lennox Lewis. I bet on Rockman just because the odds were so great, and Rockman won. Lewis was a heavy favorite. Sonny Liston against Ali, heavy favorite. Sonny Liston was. He lost 7-1 or something like that. So it happens, and it happens with the dogs too. I've seen several dogs, some that I thought were going to be sure winners, couldn't possibly lose. Previously won, finished their opponent, best in show trophy, and they lose to a very good dog. It cancels their style out. So it happens. So when it comes to Jaco and Zebo, take your pick. Because the dogs don't know who's famous, and they don't care. They don't care how the other one's bred or how they're bred. They don't care what their accomplishments were. But both these dogs are top dogs in the history of the pit bull, deserve to be mentioned and compared. Great pedigrees, great accomplishments, great producers, and had some pretty damn good litter mates. So I hope you enjoy the vid. Comments are always welcome. Thanks for your support. More on the way.